everybody. So those of you who don't know me, I am Rina Lang. I'm a coach myself, and I have known Henry for a while. And today we're actually going live in Henry's group, Crushing Mountain. And the purpose of this podcast is really for me to ask Henry a few specific questions about the work that he's doing. I've known Henry for a while, probably over a year now, if I remember correctly. And he's a coach who's very, very passionate about helping people with diabetes 2 specifically. And so throughout this last 1 year since we've known each other, I was always very, very curious about the work that he does. I myself, I don't have diabetes. I don't claim in any way that I know much about diabetes, but I have always been interested in coaches who specifically coach around health issues, how they go about helping people, how exactly the journey is like when somebody engages a coach like that, what are the things that they can expect from a coach like this. And so that's what the conversation is going to be all about, is getting to know Henry a bit more, and about the work that he does, the people he works with, and the changes he is actually bringing in people's worlds. So Henry, thank you so much again for volunteering and having this conversation with me. I really appreciate it that you got together with me on the Saturday and here to share your mission and your passion. So why don't you go ahead and share a bit more about yourself? How did you get started as a health and life coach? What was your journey?
Wow, it's odd that you should say that, and thank you for bringing me here to this point. And how I got started, long story short, is this. I was actually at one point diagnosed as pre-diabetic. But even before that, I experienced the challenge, and I've seen so many things happen with individuals. You know, I'll tell you, as growing up in New York, I've seen the change of individuals. And if you ever see some photos, you'll see that back in the 70s, back in the 60s, individuals in the United States were pretty thin, and it was not, food issues were not as much of a thing. There was childhood diabetes, and then there was adult diabetes. But then things began to change. And as those things began to change within my own community, within the African-American community, I began to notice a trend. People started talking about, well, it runs in the family. My parents had sugar diabetes. And if you know anything about folks from the South, individuals who are African-American or even not, just Southern, they'll tell you they have sugar, you know, as if someone has salt, you know, I don't know. But I noticed that was a trend. And that trend began to affect me very personally. I observed my family go downhill. It affected my parents in ways that people are just now discovering. So I can say that it's been a part of my life all my life. And when I was pre-diagnosed with it, you know, the doctors told me what the doctors tell people. It's hereditary. You can live a wonderful life, but we'll just put you on metformin. We'll put you on insulin. You'll be okay. You know, and something in my mind said, you know what, that doesn't work. And I guess I'm always like that. Years prior, I woke up one morning with a pop in my shoulder, and the pain was excruciating. And that pain spread from one side of my body to the other side of my body. I can barely raise my hands up like this. So the company sent me to the doctor, the company doctor. Okay, and the doctor said to me, "Then you have arthritis in your collarbone." I said, "Great. How do I get rid of it?" He said, "That's simple. We just remove the end of your collarbone." They were going to schedule me for surgery, which I said, "Okay. If I have a headache, you can remove part of my brain, right? And that'll solve the problem." So I said, "No there," and I took the actions to get rid of it. And what those actions were in that case was basically shoulder exercises. And now I do things that individuals who are considerably younger than me can't do. Because again, I took the action. So I learned very early on that if I take the right actions, I can reverse a physical condition. And that was the same thing when it came to type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes. I decided to take the actions, the necessary steps to reverse the diabetes. My doctor said there's nothing you can do about it. He really insisted on putting me on insulin. Here's the interesting thing about insulin. Insulin is a growth hormone, and it also promotes the production of glucose. So in many cases, a person's not just dealing with type 2 diabetes, they're dealing with insulin resistance. So you're running it's a no-win battle. I remember my dad. My dad put on tremendous amounts of weight. And the thing about it is, the insulin was the driver. He would get up, I would see him in the morning, he'd have his pants leg rolled up and injecting himself with this insulin. And the doctor was telling him, and he said, you know, the doctor says to me, if I lose the weight, they could take me off the insulin. Well, the insulin was part of the problem. So they didn't realize that. They didn't make the connection back then. That was decades ago. But in the meantime, they didn't realize that these conditions were just not a singular condition. See, prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, oftentimes is more than just a physical condition, biological condition. It's a lifestyle condition. And so it affects not just your movement, it affects your mind and everything else. And because it affects a person's mind, that means it manifests in a lot of ways that has fallout for those around them. So unfortunately, I had to deal with that abuse. I had to deal with that emotional trauma as a result of that. All these things motivated me to make change. I have 6 little girls, little granddaughters, and I know what they're going through. I know what they're trapped in because of the lifestyles of people. But all of that is something that they have to learn. And what I try to teach my people is these tools to make the change, to reverse it in their lives. And by the way, I became a health and life coach 2 years ago. And that was the same time, around the same time I started my YouTube channel, Crush Your Mountain. And interestingly enough, that was a time when, by the time I did that first video, I was able to say I reduced my glucose from well over 300 down to 93, which for a lot of people feel is amazing. My doctor was shocked. And then most recently, my doctor was sitting there bewildered, and he says, we're going to have to chalk this up to some blip in your system because your numbers are not consistent with someone who has diabetes. In other words, he wouldn't say I reversed it. They can't say that. But I never got on insulin. I refused it. I did take metformin because the biohackers these days are taking that. They're microdosing that because they have found out that it has some longevity aspects. And that's a great thing. So think about this though for a second. Because of something like metformin, those who are diabetic tend to live longer. But now the quality of life goes down. It's not any fun to live longer if your eyesight has failed. It's not any fun to live longer if you can't run with your children, your grandchildren, your friends, because you don't have any legs or because the pain is so bad that you can't move. So I looked at all of this, and when I started my channel, when I started the program, what motivated me is, what can I do in my life that I know how to do? That's to reach out to individuals in order to help individuals make a change for the better. So there I am. I became a health and life coach. I started the podcast Crush a Mountain with your help, Brina. It's become a weekly podcast, and I've had some amazing people, doctors, fellow health coaches, etc., sharing their stories, as well as amazing people who have had personal challenges they've crushed through as well. And that's what brings me to this point here as to why I actually decided to become a health coach. I'm just happy to have the chance to share this information with everybody else.
I was muted. So thank you so much, Henry, for sharing. This was very, very powerful. I was getting chills. I really feel your passion. You're a man with a mission. And yes, definitely also check out Henry's Facebook. He's actually building a whole community around this, helping people with this type of challenges to heal themselves almost. I'm a big believer that most of our problems, health problems, have their origin in the food that we eat, but also in our emotional and mental states, mindsets, emotions, and so on. And you have touched briefly on that. What other myths would you like to debunk when it comes to diabetes and how people go about healing it, treating it, prolonging it?
You know, that's the thing about it. People are under the impression that they can't do anything about it. And that's the first thing my doctor told me. He says it's hereditary, runs in the family. There's nothing you can do about it. That is a lie. Now, here's the thing. Doctors are not lying to you. Doctors are operating in the paradigm that they have to operate in. They see patients come in and out daily, and they have to spend the time, and after a while, it just gets to be by rote, if you will. So people have to understand that there is a way to reverse it. Now, you talk to nurses, you talk to health coaches, you talk to the doctors who are functional medicine doctors, and they will tell you, quite frankly, that it is, and many of the illnesses that we have are indeed reversible. It takes time, but we can put you on the health. So that's a major myth that people have to live with and have to understand, that they can actually reverse. They can halt it and reverse it, but they have to take the steps. They have to be willing to take the steps. But more importantly, really, the other myth is there's no one out there that can show you how. You got to do it on your own. You have to take the latest Genumet or other drug that the pharmaceutical industries throw at you. And that other lie, that is the most detrimental, because the more drugs you're taking, the more side effects you're incurring, and the worse you're going to get. And individuals who are selling you the drugs are going to get richer. I believe that you can keep the money in your pocket. I believe that you need the support to get you from where you are to where you want to be, and you can move forward that way. And it's not impossible. So those are the myths for that I have found individuals need to understand, make a change with.
So in your opinion, what is one of the major reasons for type 2 diabetes to be on the rise?
Well, wow, that's a huge question. And it has a lot of implications, okay? First of all, we have to understand that being diagnosed pre-diabetic type 2 diabetes, especially in the States, United States, is not your fault, not the fault of the individual entirely. You see, we've been duped in many cases by commercialism to think that fat-free foods are good for you. And here's the irony. They pump that stuff full of sugar in so many different ways. There are over 50 ways that they put the word sugar or the ingredient sugar in your food without saying that they've got sugar in there, you see? So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we're kind of stuck in the model, the old model of the standard American diet. I don't know if you ever thought about this, but the standard American diet, you put that, make it an acronym, it stands for SAD, you see? So you have a SAD diet, all right? And how is that the case? Well, we were told decades ago that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and you got to start it with cereal. You have that nice dry cereal with lots of sugar on top. Well, those grains are carbohydrates, and they're processed and highly processed, and that a long time, over a period of time, is going to raise your glucose. But there are other things that have implications as well. That highly palliative food that we buy from the fast food joints. Now, all of them, now some of them are pretty fresh. You can have some great, there's some great foods there that come from organic sources, farm fresh sources, but the majority of them, the McDonald's, the Burger Kings, I hate to call out names, but we know who they are. They're billions and billions sold, okay? They themselves are giving you foods that are destroying your body. Sodas, you know that, and I remember when it was happening, that here in the States, you have vending machines in schools that sell Coca-Colas, they sell the basically bottled carbonated sugar to children. And what's happening to those children? One of the things that horrified me was my youngest, or among the younger set of the girls, I went and FaceTimed her the other day. And she was sitting there with a liter of Pepsi and a bag of Takis. The Takis are these, snack foods, crunch foods. And they were the super hot kind. And I'm looking at my little girl, and I'm already seeing the signs. And when you come to the States these days, especially in the South, there is such an epidemic of obesity, which we call, in many cases, some refer to it as diabetes, that it's amazing. People think that it's normal to be that way, and it's not. Well, that's a big part of the problem, because the food industry, they don't make food to keep you nourished and built up. The foods that are made, like those Takis, those Doritos, those that you can't eat just one type of things, they make those things specifically to affect your reward systems in your brain. So you can't help but keep eating. And now your body is now responding in a negative way. The other challenge is life has changed dramatically. Here, you and I, we're having a conversation, and you are currently in somewhere in Europe, I believe it's Portugal. I am here in the city of Oaks, North Carolina. This conversation wouldn't be happening decades ago. And that's a wonderful thing. But the downside is that individuals are now tied to a sedentary lifestyle where they are not moving their bodies. And the body is designed to adapt to its circumstances. So when we are sedentary, the body goes into a rest and digest, as well as to conserve and hibernate mode. But when we're moving, the body is doing what it's supposed to do. It's building the energy, it's using up the glucose, etc. But now when we're doing things that are out of harmony with the way we're supposed to, our bodies operate out of whack. And that's what's happening here in this country. We've had an epidemic around the world, and we're looking at people that they have gone in, and after the 2 years of lockdown, they're stepping out and saying, wait a second, I put on all this weight. How did that happen? Well, Netflix became a big thing. Binge watching and binge eating became a big thing. And so people began to choose the wrong foods and have the wrong life. And as a result of that, it has affected their lives. So these are so many different things going into the food industry and thinking about the lifestyle of individuals. Don't let me get started on the stress that just raises a person's glucose levels tremendously, just because of the life that's happening, just circumstances either at the job or within the household. All these things have a bearing on a person's ability to process properly their bodies. So there's so many different things. It's not just eating, calories in, calories out, eating the food. There's so many different things.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights. I mean, this is really eye-opening, and I can feel and see that you're really passionate about it. It matters to you what's happening, and you can already see the future if people don't turn around on their behaviors, their habits, that it's going to affect their health, basically. Having said that, you are, yeah?
No, it's something that occurred to me. I wanted to point it out. There's a gentleman whose name is Vishen Lakhiani, amazing guy. He is the founder of Mind Valley, and he has been on a mission as far as his hometown, his home country of Malaysia, because the children there are obese due to the marketing of Milo. I don't know, how do you call it, Milo or Milo? It's what we used to call Ovaltine. And it's 40% sugar, and the children now are type 2 diabetic.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Excellent. So having said all of that, you are very articulated about this topic. I can see that you have really spent time understanding what's going on. You have consulted doctors for your own condition, but also you're well-read. I can see that you're really, really someone who dives deep into the topic because you're passionate about it. Having said that, you are not a doctor, you're a coach. So those people who are considering, who might have never considered hiring a coach, they only have looked up to doctors to help them with this condition. Where do you come in as a coach? And what is the difference between working with a doctor on this condition and actually working with you?
That's a great question, because so many individuals have come to me with that. When I started on this journey, there are many individuals that said to me, he's not a doctor, what does he know? How can he do this? Well, first of all, the purpose of your health coach is to give you the support and the information that you need to help you to change your circumstances. Your doctor is not your boss. And part of the problem is that we have come to our doctors and viewed them as our bosses. Sometimes people feel that they're just greedy health agents, but no, doctors need to get paid for what they do because they did the work to get to where they are, and they have an incredible amount of knowledge. The challenge comes in where most of the doctors, especially in the American healthcare system, they're not really caring for your health as much as they are helping you manage your condition. As a health coach, my responsibility and my commitment to you is to help you to change your condition, not just manage your condition. So where the doctor comes in, I have doctors that I've worked with that have given me the tools that I use daily to help individuals to reverse their condition. I have Dr. Mao, who created a package, who created an actual program to help individuals lose weight and reverse diabetes. Not only that, I worked with physicians who are physical therapists so that I can help individuals to build the muscle as well, which is so very vital to metabolize glucose. So I help individuals that way. So my passion is really helping individuals to have a cutting edge knowledge. And many of the doctors don't necessarily view that. Many of them don't really look into the new information. Case in point, how your microbiome affects your blood sugar. And indeed, how your microbiome comes into play in terms of the decisions that you make on a daily basis to choose the foods that you do. You see, the doctors will tell you and stress and say, well, you need to lose weight, you need to lose weight, you need to lose weight. But that's not necessarily all of your fault. We're only now coming to realize what we're up against. Because when you eat certain poor foods, it feeds your poor microbiome, the poor bacteria in your body, but that influences your mind. They actually send signals to your mind to get more of that stuff. And so you're driven, and everybody thinks they just want to get chips, you know, but you're actually driven to do that. On the other hand, when you begin to take charge, and that's where I come in, I help you to take charge of those decisions and help you to choose those right foods. You know, eventually you're feeding the good bacteria in your body. Hippocrates, the father of modern Western medicine, said that all diseases begin in the gut. Well, to a great degree, that's very true, because you're talking about gut bacteria. But when you have the good food, the good foods that feed the good bacteria, they send signals to your brain, and now you begin to crave the good foods. In fact, that can be said in terms of life itself. And so as a health coach, my job is to work with you to get you to do the things that the doctor almost has given up in helping people to do or telling people to do. Doctors now, you come in this country, you come in and they will come in and see and sit with you for about 15 minutes, maybe 20, because they have other patients. And they'll basically tell you how bad you're doing and if you need to increase your medication. In many cases, I've had doctors that when I start to ask them questions, just simple questions, they got offended, because in their mind, okay, so you've got this condition, that condition, this condition, okay, you're still taking this. Maybe we need to increase your insulin or your metformin or what have you. You see, your doctor has to be your teammate. And as a health coach, I'm going to work with you so that you have the information so that you can say to the doctor, here, doctor, this is where I'm going. Oh, by the way, look at my numbers here. I'm in better shape than I was 90 days ago when you last saw me. So here's what I'd like to do, doc. You help me make that possible. And just like my doctor is amazed, your doctor will be amazed. And that's the role of a health coach. And I say that I'm both a health and life coach because, again, we address all aspects of your life in order to get you to that point. You know, some things are going to take some time for you to change. It all depends on where you are circumstantially. But I had one client who, one of the challenges was that she was working third shift. She worked at night. She loved working at night. But what was happening though? Her job was very sedentary. And she did pretty much what everyone else does. She thought Captain D's was a health food because it was fish. So, by the way, down here in North Carolina and in the South in general, if it's fried, it's good, you know? And so she was having fried fish every night. And wondering why the diabetes was getting worse, wondering why the illness was getting worse, wondering why she was nearly 300 pounds. Well, one of the things that we had to address was the work schedule. Why? Because your body is designed to function during the day. Your nighttime is when you're resting and digesting and getting your body ready to burn those calories in the morning, to move during the day, to fight the dragons of life, as it were. Okay, so when we think about that, it's more than just calories in, calories out, because now you're at night and you're in a heightened state of awareness. In other words, your glucose levels are automatically raised and you can't bring that down. And then during the day, you have trouble going to sleep. And again, it's still raised. So I work with individuals on that. I mean, the nice outcome of that is that she actually left her job and she's working during the day and she's in the sunlight and she's changing her food choices. And now the weight's coming off, the glucose is reducing, she's having a lot less challenges, and she's able to go ahead and move away from the insulin, move and reduce the metformin. And that's a great thing. That's a great outcome.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. And perhaps to kind of like add on, when you think about coaches, think about being in a air balloon basket with another person. And doctors, they'll be there to look at your sandbags. They'll look at all your airways, whatever is going on with you. That's what they're trained to do. They look at the physical body. Yes, even the medical profession is changing now, and they do look at more at the emotional side of an ailment, but they still have, it's not a big part of their training. Whereas coaches in particular, this whole industry is actually focusing on looking at the air balloon. We are the ones who are like telling you, okay, stop looking at your sandbags. Let's look at the air balloon. What do you want? Do you want to live beyond, let's say, and have a good quality of life? Dance at your grandchildren's weddings. Is that what you want? What is your big why? Why do you even want that transformation? You have to have a big enough why for you to actually get up and start doing something about your health condition, which of course requires working on your mindsets, working on your inner life, inner world. You have a bigger vision for yourself, for your future, for your family life. Can you anchor almost your whole existence on that inspiration and work toward it? It's no longer all about sandbags. Yes, the sandbags are there. Let's spend 10 minutes talking about that. But let's spend the rest of the hour that you work with a coach talking about what's the steps we need to take to get you where you actually want. Let's look at the air balloon. Let's look at that beautiful life that you envision for yourself, that you deserve it. Yes, maybe life has been hard for you until now. Maybe you didn't have any inspirations. Maybe you were eating all that food because you just are not happy with your life. And maybe somewhere subconsciously you're actually shortening your life because your life has not been a happy walk along the beach, let's put it that way. But it does not mean it cannot change.
You know, that's so very true.
Yes, that's why the coaching industry is booming, because so many people are finally awakening to the reality that where I came from doesn't need to be my future. Everything that is possible for other people is possible for me. And that's where people who are inspirational, like Henry, who has turned around his whole reality. He hired coaches. He didn't just consult the medical profession. He hired coaches. He worked on himself. He took the steps to get himself out of where he was, because he has a big why. He has a big why. He has a family. He has people. He has life he wants, right? I just wanted to add that in, just to kind of like show you the difference between the medical profession and why the coaching industry is really booming, why people are actually putting money on the table to work with a coach, because people are realizing a lot of the issues we have is actually, some of it is not our fault, but we allowed it.
The thing about it is this, you know, we have to break through the thinking that nothing can be done. And that's where I take my people. The very first thing I like to do is, and you're familiar with this too, I like to go through this meditation, this visualization technique. I take them and we get settled, you see, and and I give them the vision. I help them to create their powerful why, help them to connect by that. We look across the river. We see who we want to be. We see all the joys, all the wonderful things, all the experiences. You see your children, your grandchildren, you see your wife, you see that woman that you want in your life. You see that man that you want in your life. And you imagine yourself already having it. We can help you to go there in your mind, truly experience where you want to be and what you want to be. And we walk you through it. And we help you to see the steps you need to take. Because that's what, and you asked me a little bit about my coaching and things like that. Well, that's what the CRUSH method is about. The CRUSH method is conceive and commit. That's that first C. And helping individuals to really take time. And that may take some time because we want you to understand your why, what you're doing. Now, why am I doing this also? Because I mentioned my little girls several times already. Just before we came on, I gave them an assignment. I have these 6 beautiful girls, and I know what they're facing more so than they do. I have a son, and I know what he's dealing with. And I see myself in the future passing something on to them. And what that is the gift of health, as well as the gift of my presence into their lives as far into the future as possible. Now, what do you want for yourself? You see? Can you sit down and conceive of who you can be, who you will be? Somewhere along that conceive and commit process, we actually have you sit down and envision yourself, but now step up and envision yourself 5 years from the future and turn around and speak to yourself in the chair. You see, understand who you are. What will you say to yourself 5 years from now? You see, all of those things is what we want you to do. And a doctor can get you so far, but the coach is going to get you to where you want and need to be for the sake of what you desire, for the sake of those you love, for the purpose of your being a healthy, living human being to the greatest extent that this world allows. So that's the whole idea. So you have to ask yourself, what is your why? Who are you when it comes to the person that wants to have the best health possible? Where are your children? Where is that person that you connect to, that you love? Don't you want to spend the rest of your life with them in the best way possible? Can you imagine that beautiful life across the river? Can you see yourself dancing in the sunlight? Yeah, that phrase touches me because I remember before I got married, and before we decided to get married, my wife and I told her that. I said to her, I always want to see you dancing in the sunshine. We've been married for 31 years come next month. And I've seen her doing just that. But the vision was there first. What vision do you have? That's the question. We help you to conceive that vision and commit to that vision. Then we have to refine and rework what you do. Because sometimes the first few steps aren't the steps that are best for you. You don't give up. You refine it. You rework it. And then you start to undertake and make the progress. And I'm there to support you in undertaking. Because look, it's not an easy road, you see, but if you lay down, you can't stay down. I'm here to help you get up. And we sustain that work, keep you moving. And then we habituate all the things that you have learned all the time so that now you have the tools to keep moving. Not only do you have the tools, but you have the right motivation to move forward in terms of reaching your goal, maintaining your health in the best way possible. And guess what? You can wind up like me with the doctor saying, well, your numbers are not consistent with someone who has diabetes. That means you don't have it. That means it's reversed. That means you have reached your optimum health, not just a good maintained health. You're not just managing, you're crushing through it. That's why I even named the show Crush Your Mountain.
So what results can one expect by working with you?
Well, I have clients that have lost 25 pounds, 30 pounds. They've lowered their glucose, okay? In one case, a gentleman, my buddy, he's out on the other side of the United States on the West Coast. And it was interesting. I got a text from his ex-wife, and she says, my sister-in-law saw him the other day and said, he looks good, you know. And I said, well, I'm glad. It's too late now. You know? But you see, it's not just a matter of looking good, but you will look great. But more importantly, if you do the work, and that's the important thing, you can write things down, but if you do the work and put that, and I will hold you to accountable, just like Rena's held me accountable. If you do that work, you will see the results of losing the weight, of dropping the glucose, and feeling even better than you did when you started. That's what happens when you start to take the actions for yourself. I'm incredibly passionate about it. It makes me tear up, so you have to forgive me. But that's what it takes to work with me. And the results, again, many of my clients, they will lower their blood pressure because we'll be changing up your eating lifestyle. And the more weight you lose, when you get to your optimum state, guess what? The blood pressure drops. The more you engage your parasympathetic nervous system, the more your blood pressure drops, as well as your glucose levels. And so the other thing that happens, you actually feel more peaceful. You have a more positive outlook, and you have a happier state because we have you out in the sunlight. We have you out dealing with life. We have you out engaging in a good farm fresh food, as well as having the proper mindset in order to move forward. So that's what health coaching will do for you. That's what I will do for you. And you will get you, and if you follow the program, you can drop your glucose tremendously. And that's providing, let me support you, and you do the work, and I'm there to keep you going all the way.
And it's also very important to think, how do you want to retire? I mean, you work all your life, maybe sacrifice so much, maybe couldn't afford good food, but I'm sure there is one part of you that wants to retire in style. But could it be that by the time you retire, actually, you will not enjoy life because of all the health issues that you might have? And the younger you are, the sooner you start, the easier it is to reverse lots and lots of effects. I have reversed lots of my health conditions that I also talk about in my YouTube channel. And that's why I'm such a believer in this work, working with a coach, working on your mindsets, because there were conditions that I thought were not reversible. And I was able to reverse it in a very short amount of time, just by changing how I feel and think about it, and had a big enough why to actually get up and do it and pay money for it and actually hire someone to help me. So it's really all about, what lifestyle do you envision for yourself in the future? By the time you retire, by the time you actually have the time to enjoy life, are you going to enjoy life, or are you going to be feeling like you're stuck in a body that is just hurting all the time. Also, medical bills are on the rise. That's one thing that always shocks me when I see so many homeless people on the streets in the US. And many people always tell me, oh, it's because of the health bills. It's because of the health bills. They lost their home because of the health bills. Of course, we don't have that issue in Europe because we have very, very good health insurance system. But having said that, just the health bills are incredible. So how much does it cost for someone to treat diabetes? What's an average cost a person looks at a year with a diabetes type 2 in the US?
Wow, that is a tremendous question, because literally, okay, so people think in terms of, oh, my healthcare covers it, so I just pay out of pocket, $15 or $5 for my medicine each time. What they don't realize, and by the way, that's if you get it generic. If you get something like Janumet, that's $400 and $500 per bottle. You see, so that's the challenge there. But people are conditioned to think that they are getting this big discount and that's how they are handling it. But the real cost is, number one, your thousands of dollars that you're putting into your healthcare system that's just keeping you barely alive and you're getting worse. Number two, the cost of not being able to move in your life. You're going up the stairs, you're being out of breath, you're not able to think the way you're used to. You can't run with your children the way you did. I had a gentleman, and it kind of blew my mind, because this is a super intelligent guy. But one day, and I call him my brother, he was that close. He was walking and he could barely move. I could see his face grimacing, and he's very heavy. And I already knew that he had trouble going down the steps or going up the steps. He has to actually walk backwards to go downstairs, just to keep the pain out of his body. But one day he comes to me and said, he just called me. I'm saying, well, what's the matter? He goes, well, this gout is killing me. I got gout in my feet. And he knew what I was about. He knew that I had to reverse my conditions. He knew we are the same age, and he knew. And his response to me, though, before I could say anything, he said, it's all right. It's my life. Is that what you want, though? You see, that's a cost, because you're paying now for your diabetes, high blood pressure, gout, okay? Now you're on the way to your body deteriorating to the point where you don't feel, your nerve endings are dying, and you do not feel your feet when you walk. You're losing feelings in your hands. Your feet begin to get infected. Do you know the average cost of an amputation in this country, because that becomes a real issue? I've seen it more time and time again. That's over $70,000. And so that's going to come down to you, because your insurance is only going to pay part of that. Then we're talking about the thousands of dollars for rehab. Then we're talking about the thousands of dollars for perhaps prosthetics. Then we're talking about the thousands of dollars for new medication to help you deal with your body adjusting and the pain that you have to go through there. Then we're talking about having to explain to your grandchildren, to explain to your son, to explain to your loved one why you have no legs, why you can't see them anymore. That's a cost, and we don't take that into consideration. There is this one other thing that doctors are now realizing. You see, they never thought that until recently that sugar goes past the blood-brain barrier. They never thought that the body could be affected, the mind could be affected by this high glucose, insulin-resistant condition. But what they're now discovering is there is a direct correlation between dementia and high glucose, between Alzheimer's and the state of diabetes. And in fact, in this country, they're beginning to refer to insulin resistance, refer to Alzheimer's as type 3 diabetes in many cases, because they now are seeing the effects. And that brings me back to my own experience. It cost me a whole lot in terms of finances to look after my parents, my mother in particular. It cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars to look after my dad. And I know it's going to cost you. We have a tendency to think in terms of the finite, but the costs are more than just the financial and that finite space of dollars and cents or euros, if you're a case. But it costs on an infinite scale so much, because as the old saying goes, if you have your health, you have your wealth. There's an old saying that says, a man will spend his life for wealth, then turn around and spend his wealth for one day of a healthy life. Is that your willingness? Is that what you want to pay for in the long run? Or do you want to look back and see yourself in a healthy state? Do you want to dance with your children, dance at your daughter's wedding, dance at your son's wedding, or run with the grandkids or nephews or nieces, to be able to play? One of the saddest things that, and I didn't even realize what was happening, because again, they don't treat it that way. They weren't treating it that way back in the 70s and the 80s. But I was like, I guess I was like 12 years old or so. And I was, come on, Mom, let's run. She's like, I can't. I can barely move. And that was long before the mind started going, because with her it was early onset dementia. So what was the cost of that? How much did we pay the doctors, the psychologists, psychiatrists? How much did we pay the nursing home? And how much did we pay for her cremation? And it didn't have that. Last month, my mom would have been 90 years old. And I love to see people whose parents are that old. I have to go to a funeral a little bit later on today, because this gentleman died, but he was at that age. But that's a cost. Life is so precious. You were given a life in a state of health. Why not maintain it? Because it's possible. You may not be perfect in this world. On this side of Armageddon, you will not be a perfect human being. But if you adopt the practices of health, then you will have the wealth that matters. You will have what you need.
So what is the one thing, because it's not doomsday, we are not here to make you sad about your condition, but we are here to wake you up, to shake you up. That's why we mentioned all those things, the cost, because the coaches that I hired, it was nothing compared to the transformations that I had and the time I saved And now the quality of life that I'm living, it's really priceless, and would have been not if not for those coaches, for those inspirational people that helped me to think differently about myself and my health issues. And so what is one message, one thing that people can start doing today, those who have diabetes, one thing that you would like to leave people with?
Well, let's give you one easy thing to do, something easy, okay? All right, because we can talk about exercise, and that's a thing, I get it. We can talk about eating right, and absolutely you need to do that. But there's some things we want to go in terms of specifics that when it comes to your diet. But you know something? Why not? Let's just take advantage of something that everyone is doing right now, and that's breathing, okay? I'm going to give you a little thing that we can do that can lower your glucose and put you in the state of rest and digest, because hey, it's crazy out there. Okay, so, and you can do this at any given time, especially when you're feeling stressed, because when you're feeling stressed, your glucose levels will go up because your body's preparing you for the fight or flight. So here's what we want you to do. This is a little bit of what we call this box breathing, okay? And you breathe in for 4 seconds. So just, if you will, just close your eyes. And we're going to take a breath for 4, hold for 4, and then exhale for 4, and then hold the exhale for 4. That's important. So let's go ahead and start with breathe in, 1, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do it again. Hold it. Don't breathe in again. Don't breathe it again. 2, 3, 4. Now breathe in. 1, 2, 3. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Okay, now take a deep breath all together. Just breathe in, breathe in. Let go. Feel that tension going down. Breathe in. And as you're breathing in, I want you to start thinking about that beautiful place or that beautiful person. Exhale. And know where you want to be. That beautiful person is you. Breathe in. Hold it. Exhale. Good. So what we just did, we did a bit of the box breathing, and then we did a bit of visualization. And one of those things, we go a little bit more into that, a lot more into depth when it comes to that. But not just when you're feeling tense, but you're taking some time during the day to just do your breathing exercise like that can have tremendous effects on your glucose as well as your high blood pressure. So that's one thing. Now, that's not the only thing. That's just one tool that you have. And that's one of the things that's mentioned in the little ebook that I have that's available to you right now.
Yes, tell us a bit more about the ebook. I know you've just published your first ebook where you talk more about this topic and you share many, many more techniques. So tell us a bit more about that and how people can get their hands on it.
Okay, well, you can, my ebook talks about your diagnosis, and the question is, now what? Pre-diabetic, diagnosed, now what? Well, it tells you a little bit about my story, who I am, how I am now. Okay, the fact that I do 100 push-ups every morning, the fact that I can bench over 200 pounds, but it wasn't like that. But it tells you a little bit of my story, about my family. But the more important things, it talks about you. It talks about the techniques that you can do right now to change your state of being. You have 3 steps to lower your glucose, lose weight, as well as build a little bit of muscle. And if you follow those programs, just in that's a tremendous step. Also, it discusses not just the techniques, but you have a recipe that will actually be delicious, help you to lose weight, it lowers your glucose, as well as gives you the molecules, it builds up the molecules in your system that actually lower your blood pressure. I love it. Especially during the summer, it's one of my favorite things to eat. And the funny thing about it is I started doing it, and then my wife, I would make a whole bunch of it. I would come home when it was gone because my wife ate it. She didn't have any issues, but it tasted so good. So those are things that we do also. Again, you have a number of other different ideas that you have to understand in terms of, well, what if I don't like exercise? All those things are in the book in terms of how you can take the steps. More importantly, you must understand what are the 3 things that are holding you back? What are the 3 things that have made it very difficult for you to achieve your goals of optimum health in terms of reversing type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetes? So you can reach it at Henry Gaskins Coach /ebook, henrygaskinscoach.com/ebook. If you go there, it's free. Also, by the way, for those of you who watch this, I have a very special event that will be coming up. It'll be a short course on reducing your sugar. It'll be a sugar detox program that individuals who avail themselves of this program can get themselves involved in. So you can reach out and we can get that set up for you. It can be one-on-one, but this is more of a group coaching sort of thing. So look, all of this is available to you right at this point. If we go on to henrygaskinscoach.com/ebook.
Yes, and you can also find Henry on all the typical social media, on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. He's got a Facebook community. He's got a YouTube channel, so check it out. And those of you who will be probably watching this video after this group coaching program has finished, reach out to Henry. Surely he will have also replays from that program that you can purchase in the future. So thank you so much, Henry. I really enjoyed this conversation. I really enjoyed learning more about what is it that you do and how working with you looks like. And, just learning from you. I mean, I've learned so many things. As mentioned, I am not myself a health coach. I don't know much about this particular condition, but I'm happy you shared this with me, and I'm definitely will be surely will share this information also with people in my friendship circle, should I come across somebody who might be in need of this type of services. Also, those of you who are watching this video, also, if you have anybody in your inner circle who you feel like could benefit from working with Henry, do feel free to forward this video. It's going to be also available on YouTube. We're going to also drop all the links under the video for you to get the free ebook. Just go to that website that Henry mentioned and get your copy from there. And that way you will also be enrolled in Henry's newsletter, and you will learn more about the offerings that he's bringing up, and all the different ways for you to follow Henry and learn more about what he's doing. Thank you so much, Henry.
Well, thank you. And listen, like I always say on my channel, don't just climb your mountain, crush through it. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.